A movie that I've had in my backlog for the longest time is The Deer Hunter, a Best Picture winner, a certified classic by many people, but a film that I was genuinely intimidated to really get into and just check it out. It kept me from watching the movie for years. I've owned the Blu-ray for this movie for years, and I just couldn't quite get myself to grips with eventually watching the film itself. Well, I finally amended that as I'm really trying to be a lot more active in watching a lot more classic films and diving into the true history of cinema. And here I am today talking about The Deer Hunter. Let's get into it. And after actually watching this movie for the very first time, I don't exactly know what I was concerned about because I think this film is utterly fantastic and is so deserving of the praise it gets. It also feels like it could make a really great double feature with Francis Ford Coppola's Apocalypse Now. Both cover somewhat similar subject matter in vastly different ways. Apocalypse Now at times can feel a little fantastical and mythical, while The Deer Hunter is very much based in the real world. And I like the two different applications of what they're trying to do. And I think The Deer Hunter deserved its Best Picture win when it came out. And I think it was just such a compelling watch from start to finish. The thing that held me back from this for so long was predominantly its runtime. It's a little bit over 3 hours long. And talking about these topics of the war and the trauma of that, it doesn't lend itself to be the most fun of watches, and it's something that you've really got to gear yourself up for, and that was always the thing that was consistently holding me back from watching this. But actually stopping and giving this the time it deserved and checking it out, this really is a pristine film that it has so many compelling moments, has so much to say, and it's just so effective in doing it. Watching this movie, it just felt like a true classic in every sense of the word. When you watch a lot of these older films, there isn't this snappiness from the get-go to just try and get you hooked within the first 5 seconds because your attention span is that bad now. No, the film like this, it takes its time. It gets you accustomed to these characters. It gets you used to them. It really draws you into them and makes you connect with them. It makes you think consistently. It has this sense of grandeur all throughout it. And to have that in a film that is really much based in the real world with real characters, that's very rare in a film to see today, unless it's based off an IP or it's a biopic of some sort. So to see a film like this is really refreshing because you just don't get too many of these now. The film, more or less, is an extremely well-rounded illustration of the mentality of people going into the Vietnam War, the certain patriotism that was involved there, going into war and that real-life experience, and then post-war and how that really affected someone. And the film utilizes its really excellent ensemble to illustrate all of the different effects that happen in here. The film, at the start, covers these somewhat foolish characters. It's just guys being dudes, hanging out, hunting deer, drinking. They're just friends and having a good time for the most part. And then we get into the stark reality of the Vietnam War, where these characters go through so much trauma, where these characters have to be brave in the toughest of circumstances and have moments that genuinely break them. The concept itself isn't wholly original, but the way this movie covers it does feel innovative with its immaculate presentation and perfectly performed ensemble. I adored the cinematography here, the vast landscapes, the way that certain shots are framed, the way that it's able to capture so much expression and emotion on someone's face is brilliant and communicates so much. And another part of that is, of course, the performances throughout. And I think Robert De Niro delivers some of the greatest work he has ever done. I know he's considered an all-time great actor, and I definitely have seen some of his best work, like Taxi Driver, but I still wasn't always won over by how excellent of a performer he is because I've just seen him do so many goofy movies in the modern day. The Deer Hunter, though, really won me over with De Niro. I think this is a performance unlike anything he's done, and I think it's up there with his performance in Raging Bull as some of his best work. I think Christopher Walken in his supporting capacity is phenomenal as well. And the dynamic that these two characters share with each other is just breathtaking. There's a sequence during the Vietnam War at a table with these characters playing Russian roulette. This is a moment that genuinely changes both of them, and the expressions on their faces tell you everything you need to know. The way it was framed, the way that the performances capture the emotion of that situation. One character really trying to be brave in the face of adversity. Another one is just completely breaking and is having this shocking moment really get to him, and as it should, and it's all justifiable. And then post-war, you see that continue on. You see Robert De Niro when he gets back, and things just aren't quite the same. And once again, the film doesn't need to tell you this constantly. You can just tell by the blocking and the way that he is now interacting with these characters and how it is so vastly different compared to what it was. I think the film really descends into the cruelness of normality post an experience like that, and you can just feel the displacement that these characters feel oozing all the way through this. And this all leads to such a riveting third act that is both devastating and is a brilliant showcase of filmmaking craft from director Michael Cimino. The big scene in this third act illustrates how just some of the trauma that has happened in these characters' past just can't be recovered, and the literal elements combine really nicely with the metaphorical throughout. The Russian roulette sequences are just unlike anything that I've seen in a film, and I think that is what garnered its Best Picture praise, and obviously the supporting actor win for Christopher Walken, who I think also delivers some of his finest work. And I think what seals the deal on this film being such an excellent experience, and one that is utterly devastating, is the final scene. I haven't even talked about how Meryl Streep is in this ensemble, and I think she is amazing in her supporting capacity. Her character really shifts from the first act to roughly the middle of the film, where these characters go through a vast change. And she sort of does as well, and seeing the dynamic that she shares with the characters evolve over time is very interesting, and I think she plays an intriguing part to this movie. And there's a final moment between De Niro and Meryl Streep where they're just looking at one another, and the way that the shot is crafted, there's characters in the background, and they're sort of in the middle of the frame, and you're just solely focused on them. Even though everyone else is in focus, you could look any direction, but you are locked into those two characters because their performance just sells you on everything, because once again, the looks on their faces just communicate so much to the audience, and the whole experience that they've gone through is utterly devastating and completely annihilates you by this film's conclusion. Speaking further on the cinematography, I think certain lighting decisions and the way that both Vietnam and America are framed are so vastly different and juxtapose each other very nicely. There's a stillness to the mountain scenery that is in America, and the place where these characters hunt for deer. It really feels like a happy place, a moment of zen for these characters. And then you go to Vietnam and it's dark and feels foreboding all the way through. And then going back to that stillness later in the film, you just once again feel that juxtaposition and feel the vast difference that happens for these characters. It's just little moments like that that just keep the messaging so tight and consistent all the way through its 3-hour runtime that makes you locked in. It has a great combination of substance, entertainment, sophistication. It makes The Deer Hunter a film that will live on forever. As a whole, I think The Deer Hunter is just a phenomenal film that you should check out. It definitely deserves its classic praise and is just an experience that I will not forget. And as I said, it does feel like a really great companion piece to Apocalypse Now. It would be a miserable experience watching them both back to back because of the subject matter, but I think they talk with each other really nicely, and I think they're both excellent films that cover this period of time, and both the patriotism of America and how that was utilized to fool the general public and put them into an experience that vastly ruined their lives. And those are my thoughts towards The Deer Hunter. If you've seen the movie, let me know what you guys think about it in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I kind of danced around a lot of spoilers in this review, but I wouldn't mind talking about them in the comments below. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.